So we started servicing our stores out of there. Day one, opened up, and guess what happens? Equipment breaks, things happen, machines stop. And oh, by the way, customers kept coming into our stores wanting that merchandise. You know, they didn't really care how it got there. Now, most of us are customers, right? How many people shop at Walgreens? Wow, thank you. Oh, by the way, I hear it's really going to be a tough flu season. Just say it. You didn't hear it from me. You walk into any of our Walgreens stores, just walk right in. They'll be glad to see you. Really tough season coming up. So, we knew we had a special building because the equipment stopped, customers still come in the stores, and as customers, do you care how it gets there? If Mother Teresa brought it there on angel wings or the devil himself got it there, they didn't care where this stuff was coming from. We had to compete from day one to get going. So the equipment would stop in a typical building when we would do this. Now imagine you're working in a building, the equipment stops, what do? You walk off, talk to your friends, whatever. We noticed in that building, people would pick up a rag and clean the equipment. That was something you'd never seen. And we had an impression, you know, people with disabilities, especially autism, they only want to work on one job, and they're really kind of inflexible. So, you know, we're going to have, you know, people are going to concentrate over here. And they're not going to be good about changes. You know, they're not going to be very flexible. You know, probably won't be able to work overtime. Well, that plan went out the window day one. We had to move people from here to there and back and over here to get the work done. They had to work every Saturday from July to November. All kinds of overtime. And being a good leader, I waited until it was about done before I went down there to talk to them about it. So I was going to go meet with employees, and having been through that, I expected a couple of questions, having been through it before. Typical questions would be, when are you going to get this equipment working, and when are we going to stop working all this overtime, having to work all this overtime, especially Saturdays? That's what I expected. I was ready for those questions. They had two questions for me. First question was, how are we doing? Second question, what can we do to help? Never had those questions before. You know, I went away from there and said, I'm not doing my job. We knew we had a special building. And when you walk through that building, and I'm going to invite each of you to come to there, or to Hartford, or any of our other centers, you'll see it for yourself. There's a sense of team, there's a sense of purpose that we have like in no other building. So from that, we opened up that building, and today that has 198 people with disabilities. That's 40% of the workforce. So it's not 30, it's 40. And we opened up a similar building 2 years later, and that's in Hartford. It has 222. That's 50% of their workforce. And oh, by the way, these are our most productive distribution centers in our system. And what have we found about people with disabilities? We found that they're just as productive, there's no difference. We found that the accident rate is half, and our turnover is less. And attendance is better. That's what we found. We studied 400,000 hours of work. So that's what we found. And oh, by the way, then we brought all our other distribution center managers in, and they saw this, and they realized it was not about technology, because we have all kinds of distribution centers without technology, with forklifts like a lot of businesses here do. And so they said, we want to do this too. So we set a goal of trying to hire 1,000 people with disabilities by the year 2010. The recession slowed us down, but we finally hit for about 1,050, which is a little over 10% of our workforce in our DC. So this is what it looks like today. In every center, we have people with disabilities. And it ranges, let's say, from 50%, probably the least is probably 10%. Those are different sized buildings. And over the last 2 years, 1 out of 3 people that we've hired in our distribution centers, that's 500 out of 1,500, are people with disabilities. It has fundamentally changed us. Now, what we've done in our distribution centers, now by the way, we brought in last year, we brought in all our distribution centers again and said, okay, we made the 10%, we got the 1,000 out of the 10,000 workforce, what's next? It's got to be your goal. It's not my goal, because you're the one that executes. This is what happens. People have to buy into this. This is not something you execute from ivory tower. And what I've decided about this, based on giving people permission to do the right thing, they'll do it. just get out of their way and run some roadblocks for them and knock down some obstacles. Because you don't do this at corporate, you do this for I'm going to go to this in a second. So what I'm going to show you this right here. This is, I talked about Anderson. Now I'm going to show you a little news story they did about it. This was an ABC News story they did a couple of years ago, or probably a year ago. It was right before Charlie, what was his name on ABC? Yeah, that was it.
And work in progress. An employer proving disabled people will work just as hard as anyone else, if given the chance.
From ABC News headquarters, this is World News.
Finally tonight, an economic success story that is, more importantly, a human success story. A recent study found that the unemployment rate for Americans with disabilities is 44%. There are laws against discrimination, but many employers still question whether disabled people can really do the job. Betsy Stark found one company with some answers.
At first glance, this Walgreens distribution center in Anderson, South Carolina seems ordinary enough. But look a little closer.
I'll tell you what, I love this job.
And it is anything but.
I have been happy with it. I'm contented. And I've got people all around me that's just the best friends I've ever had in the whole world.
What's special about this place is that Julia Turner and more than 40% of her 700 co-workers are disabled. Julia has Down syndrome. Daryl Perry, who works right next to her, mentally retarded.
What are these things, Daryl?
It tells you all kind of tips.
Oh, so these are tips on how to do your job?
Do my job.
Garrett Tadon has autism. Luann Bannister, one of their training supervisors, in a wheelchair. And Angela Mackey, who recruited most of them. You feel better? Angie has cerebral palsy.
I hope that, from my work and from the program I'm showing, that disability or not, we all have potential, we all have values.
In this building, able and disabled workers do many of the same jobs and earn the same pay.
Corporate America thinks they need to give somebody with a disability an easier job. Everyone here is on equal ground.
Can you please take care of that for me?
Yes, sir. In this building, people with disabilities
How you doing, man?
are not invisible.
And you see somebody with a disability, everybody avoids that person. Here, we come up and shake your hand. It's totally different.
The quiet revolution happening in Anderson is the brainchild of Walgreens executive Randy Lewis.
Everything okay?
Lewis has a 19-year-old son with autism.
I was a parent. I saw the future. And so the question is, given our position, maybe we could be an example, maybe we could use our position of leadership to try to change the work environment.
This was personal.
Very personal. Very personal.
Lewis says Anderson is no less productive than other distribution centers.
People come to me and say, will this work in my environment? Yes, it will.
How you doing, Stephanie?
This is not just a good thing to do, the right thing to do. This is better.
Does it make you feel good to get a paycheck every week?
And if anybody needs a big check, come over here and they'll give it to you.
Only if you earn it. Betsy Stark, ABC News, Anderson, South Carolina.
And that is World News.
So, only if you earn it. Only if you earn it. Now, when we started out, we had a couple of principles. One, and it really worked out well for us. One is we had to say, we're a business, not a charity. We have shareholders, we have employees, we have customers. We compete every day with lots of competitors. We're a business. So we wanted to have everybody come in at the same level, same jobs, same pay, same standards from the get-go. That's what we said. We could be fair to everybody. And also, we wanted to build a sustainable model, knowing that if we could do this, we wanted to have a legitimate place where other employers could come in and see that this works. Completely inclusive environment, side by side. When you walk through those buildings, you'll walk around and you'll say, okay, where are all the people with disabilities? And we put visitors in there, we put them on the line working with somebody, we bring them back to the conference room, and we said, who did work with a person with autism? Well, first of all, who worked with a person with a disability? And, half or three-quarters of people raise their hand. We said, no, all of you work with a person with a disability. Now, who worked with the person with the explosive anger disorder? Who worked with the person with ADD? Who worked with the person that doesn't hear in one ear? Who worked with the person that has limited motion in one hand? Whatever. On and on and on. Your sustainable model. And the second thing, which was actually proved to be more important, we didn't have to have all the answers before we started. Because that's what happens. When you get ready to start to do that, you go, okay, let's plan. And I've seen people go through that planning door. I've never seen that many come out. They kind of get lost in there, get resources, and then all of a sudden, what are we going to do? And we have what's called the world of what ifs. Now, if you talk to Lowe's was a great part for doing this. We asked them, what was their greatest fear? They said, our greatest fear is that legal would find out about it. I said, really? Our fear was HR would find out. But you go through all the what ifs. What if this? What if this? What if that? We joke about one of our what ifs. Now remember the question: what if there's a deaf person in the washroom, or there's a deaf person cleaning the washroom? What are we going to do? Because our typical mode is, I'm cleaning the restroom. Is there anybody in there? Right? Does anybody do that method? Okay, so we said, well, how's the deaf person going to know there's somebody out there? Well, we could roll a tennis ball in, and they could roll it back. That works in either way. The deaf person can roll it in and they can see it back. And I said, well, what if they can't reach the tennis ball? Hockey sticks in the stalls. Not every idea. During brainstorming, you just have ideas. You'll say, that's a bad idea. That's stupid. And somebody said, well, we have ladies clean the ladies' room and men clean the men's room. They were, gee whiz, that kind of worked. But the what ifs that you'll be thinking of, most of them we found out didn't happen. And the things that did happen were things that we anticipated. So we said, okay, we're going to make mistakes, and we'll correct them as we go along. Because guess what? That's what we do with the typically it was too. It was no different. It's not all these people with disabilities are so different. Hey, we screw up every day with these other groups. Let's do the same thing. Let's fix it. If you make a mistake, admit we're wrong, we did something different, we're going to try it. We're going to be consistent, purposed, flexible in the way we're going to handle it. That was our charge. Now, what we've done on our distribution centers, and we brought in all the distribution center managers and said we had been over 10%. What's next? They said, let's go to 20%. So that's what we're doing now. Now, what we've done in the distribution centers doesn't compare to what we're getting ready to do in stores. Because we hire about 100,000 people a year in our stores across this country. That's a lot of people. And our head of stores, Mark Wagner, is a huge supporter of this. And oh, by the way, everybody in the company has been a supporter of this. Would you agree here? They've seen this and said, okay, we want to hire 1 out of 10 new hires in our stores. Is our clear and elevated goal. 1 out of 10 new hires in our stores. That would be 10,000 people a year. Now, that's an aspirational goal. I don't know how long it's going to take. But if we're able to get there, we're in 7,700 stores in virtually every community across this country. That will ring a huge bell. For the community, to have an impact on the community, and also on us, and helping other employers see, to bring folks out of the shadows and see how they can be a productive member, an equal member in the society.